Hi, I'm Alex Pault, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Today, I was going to talk about a new acquisition of mine and give us all a close-up look, and I'll even open it up and look inside for you. This Wakmann three-pusher Flyback Chronograph. Wakmann is a famous company in horological history, watchmaking history, in the sense that it was it was the epitome of the old school of mainstream watchmaking, of buying movements and cases and faces from other companies and then assembling them in your way to make it your design, and then you put your name on it and put it in the marketplace. Wakmann was an American who imported movements from Switzerland and imported cases and faces and put together a bunch of very interesting pieces, most notably their triple date chronograph. Really nice piece. I did a video on that as well. And Wakmann became part of the people who eventually became Breitling. So a lot of people call the Wakmann chronos pre-Breitlings. So this one is a flyback, and it uses a very interesting mechanism to reduce the complexity of the movement. It uses three pushers. So let's turn the camera around and take a close look. But before I do, please subscribe. It really does help, and I'm so close to being able to live stream, and then we can have these kinds of conversations in real time. Let's turn the camera around and take a look at this really interesting watch. Here we are with the Wakmann Race Timer Flyback Chronograph. It's a very nice piece. Came out in the early 70s, if I'm not mistaken. Could be late 60s, but this was definitely a watch of the 70s. It's very evident by its styling and design. But then back in those days, everybody pretty much made watches by buying cases and movements and such from various parts manufacturers and then assembling your own watch to your own taste. And Wakmann is a perfect example of that. Wakmann actually has a horological significance beyond that as well, because Wakmann became part of the company that eventually became Breitling. So the Wakmann's actually known for a couple of pieces. It's known for this piece, and it's also known for a triple date calendar, which I have a video on. I did it over a year ago. That watch came and went in the collection, but I was able to put a nice video together on it. And I think I'm going to keep this one in the collection because flyback chronographs are not popular. Or I shouldn't say popular. They're popular, but they're not a lot of them out there. So the few that are out there are either very expensive or vintage, like this one. Now, I'm going to show you what a flyback chronograph does, and I just want to do a quick contrast. If you notice, this one's got multiple pushers. That's because this does flyback on the cheap, in that it has a separate pusher for reset and a separate pusher for flyback. That's part of the BFG 590 movement that's in it. That was used in a couple of other watches of its era, but was inexpensive, robust flyback chrono mechanism. And if you'll notice, the totalizers, here, let me zoom in a little bit. If you notice, the totalizers have shifted because essentially it's running all the time. The only things that you're really resetting, you reset everything so you can use it for timing purposes. But if you leave it alone, the totalizers will drift along. I shouldn't say drift, will be pushed along with the movement. See, so for example, if I hit the, there we go. You see, now it's all reset. I hit the start, it goes off. I hit the flyback button, it flies back. And now if I hit the stop in here, oh, got to hit the flyback button, and then this would actually reset the totalizers. So it's just a very funky design to try to incorporate a higher chronograph function in an inexpensive watch. Now, I wanted to contrast flyback with split second. I happen to have this Minerva split second handy, and as you see, a split second it starts running, and then when you hit the second pusher, it stops one of the second hands, and it does that with a little clutch that just grabs the gear, and then when you push it again, it catches back up with it. If you notice that bounce at the end, it's because it's being pushed along by a big cam, so then it just literally rides the cam to the highest point, which is where the second hand is. And then, of course, stop and reset. I'm going to do an entire episode on how chronographs work, the different kinds, and how they all function in another episode. But I wanted to focus on the Wakmann here. So the Wakmann is a very nice device. It's an excellent vintage chronograph. It's an interesting economical presentation of what is normally a very complicated and expensive function. And so if you notice, again, here, let's zoom in. The minute totalizer is not zeroed, even though this zeroed the second hand. So by pushing this, it zeroed the minute totalizer. So it's a funky presentation, but it looks cool, and it does work as advertised. It is a flyback chronograph. It just does it with a mechanism that is interesting, to put it lightly. Now, let's open it up. I actually prepped it, and let's put it back and take a closer look at the BFG 590 that's inside of it. So as you see, the pushers are actually quite robust and attached to the frame quite well. So let's see. You see, it's the entire, it creates an entire pivot point for the pusher to push against. And again, with this one here, the same kind of deal. So that way, it's not like you've got little spindly pushers pushing on little spindly levers. These are quite robust levers. So this is a quite robust movement. And as you see, it is ticking away there quite nicely. It's got an ink block shock absorbing system. And let's see if we can make out the text that's on it. Oh, went a little too far. Sorry about that. Let's try get in a third time's the charm, maybe. Okay, so there you go. It's actually quite a nice movement, especially considering the time and the price point that it was intended for. So let's put the back on, do some measurements, and throw it on the wrist. Okay. Let's take a quick look-see. Nothing special on the inside. Let's just use the wrench, keep it quick and easy. Don't want to over tighten. And there we go. Wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Tudor Black Bay Heritage, a really nice watch. And I'll have a video on this one in an upcoming episode as well. But it's a sharp piece, and I like the ETA version. They call it the Smiley because of the curved text on it. But all in all, a fantastic piece. So now let's do some quick measurements. So we're looking at a 43 millimeter case. I'd say, yeah, about a 43. Lug to lug. It's got shielded lugs, shrouded lugs. Lug to lug, it's 48.2, so it's not a really long presentation for its width, so it should sit quite nicely on the wrist. And hold it. Thickness, 15.2, which isn't bad for a chronograph. I have it on a NATO because it came on a brown leather strap, and I don't do brown leather, and it wasn't the factory strap anyway. So I just put it on a nice black NATO that sets it off quite nicely. And since it was kind of new old stock, they presented it as new old stock, and the case is immaculate, so I'm going to take them for their word. But I had to put it on a NATO because the strap that it came with wasn't to my taste. But I think it works quite well like this. And as you see, it sits a little high because of the way the back is, but it doesn't sit awkwardly. It sits quite nicely, and on my 18 and change centimeter wrist, it looks good. I really like the way it looks. I'm probably going to, like I said, keep it in the permanent collection. So let's turn the camera around and close out the episode. That was the Wakmann Triple Pusher Flyback Chronograph, a really interesting piece from the past, and now what would back then be considered a inexpensive workaround is now considered a vintage piece of interesting horology. Thanks for taking the time to be with us, and please subscribe. It really, really helps.